Over the decades, every home video game manufacturer has claimed to bring home the true arcade experience. But it wasn't until the early 90s, when SNK released the Neo Geo Advanced Entertainment System, that true arcade gaming came to living rooms across the world. These games weren't cheap, but if you had deep enough pockets, you could experience these games exactly as they were in the arcades, with the same graphics, sound, and gameplay. Some of these carts cost hundreds of dollars back in the 90s. So the question is, how much are they today? And that's what we're going to be looking at as we count down the top 25 most valuable SNK AES games. What's up, Internet? I'm Technohead, and welcome back to my channel, RetroTech. This is the next exciting episode in the Pixels to Polygons series, where we're taking a look at the value of classic video game systems from the 90s and early 2000s, and how they've changed from 2004 to 20 years later in 2024. And today, we're looking at a heavy hitter, the SNK Neo Geo AES system. Now, for a little background on the system, this system's hardware used the exact same hardware as its arcade Neo Geo MVS system. It had these extremely huge cartridges. You can see here, this is an MVS cartridge for the game Puzzle Bobble. And just to give you an idea of what we're talking about, here it is next to an SNES game cartridge for, this is Turtles in Time here. So you can see that there is a pretty significant difference in these cartridge size. Inside, in fact, it's so large, it has, let me see if I can get on the camera here. It has 2 PCBs inside of it, just for this game. And these carts were extremely expensive. They were not cheap. They would go for hundreds of dollars. It was a premium product. The game console itself cost about $699 back in the day, which compared to like an SNES or Genesis was about $400 more expensive. So these were games for serious arcade enthusiasts, but if you could afford them, you had a fantastic library of true arcade hits. You had stuff like Metal Slug, you had a huge library of fighting games like Fatal Fury and Samurai Showdowns. Some of the most iconic 90s games appeared on this system, and you could bring them all home and play them at home, which was a very exciting prospect. But like I said, it didn't come cheap. But today, we'll be taking a look at how much these games cost versus how much they were back then. So even though they were expensive back in the day, I'm just going to give you a little spoiler. You're not going to believe some of these prices. This is easily the most expensive retro game system to collect for. Just a few notes about today's show. I'm not going to go over all of the methodology for finding the prices. I did that in pretty great detail in the Sega Genesis episode, so if you're curious about that, you can go back and watch that episode. But in a nutshell, I'm taking historical prices from the Game Dude website from 2004 using the Wayback Machine, and also from today, and I'm comparing those prices after being adjusted for inflation to see how much the games are going for now. Now, most of the time, these are loose games, and so my assumption is that these are going to be loose carts as well for the Neo Geo. Unfortunately, many of these games are so expensive that on their current website, GameDude doesn't actually list a price. It's like getting a market price for a piece of seafood in a restaurant or something. They just tell you to go up and ask how much something would be. So in cases where I didn't actually have a 2024 price for a cart, I'm just going to go to price charting and use what they have there for a loose cart price. And that should give us a pretty good idea of what picking up one of these carts would be in the modern day. Also, these prices were not listed on Rarity Guide, as many of the other rarities were I've included in videos. So I went to Jamination and used their Rarity Guide. So that's where the rarity is going to come from in this video, which is a little bit different from previous videos. One other note is all the gameplay is being captured for this video using my OMVS system, which is a consoleized version of the MVS arcade machine. The reason for that is that I don't actually have an AES, but the games are similar enough that there's really not that much difference between the arcade version and the home versions. So you'll get an idea of what these games are like by looking at the MVS version in this video. But that's enough chatting. Let's get into these games. Let's check out the top 25 most valuable SNK Neo Geo AES games. Starting out the list, we have Super Baseball 2020, a game set in the far-flung future of the world of 2020. This is a game where cyborgs play America's pastime, baseball. 2020 Super Baseball was $40 back in 2004, but today, a cart for the AES would cost you $79 at Game Dude, which is a 98% increase in value. Then we have Thrash Rally, Rally Racing at number 24. This game is an overhead rally racing game. It's a high adrenaline, fast-paced, really fun rally game. It was $49 back in 2004, but today if you wanted to pick up a copy of Thrash Rally, you'd have to spend about $99, which is a 102% increase in value. At number 23, we have Ninja Commando. Ninja Commando is a time-traveling, ninja-battling action game where you can choose from one of three ninjas and kind of plays like Akari Warriors or something like that as you run up and shoot people with your arrows of shurikens or whatever. This game was $166 back in the day, and today it costs $349 for a cart, which is a 110% increase in value. Now, as you can see, collecting for the Neo Geo is not for the faint of heart. These games are very expensive. At number 22, we have Art of Fighting 3. This game is, of course, one of the revolutionary fighting games to appear on the Neo Geo, of which there were many. This game back in 2004 was commanding the price of $417, but today a copy of Art of Fighting 3 goes for $899, which is a 116% increase in value. That's followed up by another side-scrolling action beat-em-up. This is Mutation Nation, another post-apocalyptic punch-em-up here, where you're punching guys who slowly start to morph into bug-like creatures and mutations. Mutants were big in the 90s, what can I say? This game was $82 back in 2004, but today a copy of Mutation Nation is going for $179, which is a 118% increase in value. Then we have Top Hunter at number 20. Top Hunter is another side-scroller. It's a little more cute than Mutation Nation, but still a lot of fun. It had sort of a grabbing and throwing mechanic, sort of like Bionic Commando. This game was $132 back in 2004, but if you wanted to pick up a copy today in 2024, you'd be spending $299, which is a 127% increase in value. League Bowling coming in at number 19. This is definitely one of my favorite Neo Geo games. This is, just a classic game of bowling with meters similar to what you would see on a golf game or something like that, but the presentation is fantastic, the graphics are fun. Back in 2004, a copy of League Bowling would go for $65, but today if you wanted to pick up a copy, you'd have to spend $149, which is a 129% increase in value. Then we have from Data East at number 18, Spin Master, which is another side-scrolling action game. There's a few of them on this list. This one is fun. Your protagonist uses like slingshots and stars and yo-yos and stuff. This was $126 back in 2004, and today a copy goes for $299, which is a 137% increase in value. Then we have one of the couple of shooters on this list. We've got Viewpoint coming in. This game is a rarity of 80, so this is a more rare game for the system. And back in 2004, this was going for $166. But today, if you wanted to pick up a copy, you'd have to shell out $399, which is a 140% increase in value. Another side-scrolling beat-em-up game. Similar to Mutation Nation, this one is taking place in a dystopian future filled with robots this time instead of mutants. Robo Army sees you beating up an army of robots. This game was $82 back in the day, and today, if you wanted to get a copy, it's $199, which is a 143% increase in value for Robo Army. That's followed up by another fighting game. At number 15, we have Aggressors of Dark Combat, spelled with a K, like a certain other fighting game you might know of. And this fighting game, its big claim to fame was its 2 planes of action, sort of similar to Samurai Showdown or something like that. This game was $116 back in 2004. And today in 2024, it goes for $299, which is a 158% increase in value. Number 14 needs no introduction. This is Metal Slug. This game is not especially rare. However, back in the day, a copy of this game at Game Dude was selling for $1,257, which is extremely expensive for a single game when you think about it. Today, in 2024, if you wanted to get a copy of Metal Slug, you'd have to shell out 170% more, or $3,388 for a copy of Metal Slug. Last Blade comes in at number 13. Last Blade is another fighting game. This one uses some weaponry, but sort of like martial arts and stuff like that. This game was $293 back in the day. But today, if you wanted to pick up a copy of Last Blade, you'd have to spend $799, which is a 173% increase in value for this excellent fighting game. That's followed up by another sports title, and a fun one at that. At number 12, we have Street Hoop. Street Hoop is not especially rare, but back in the day, it was selling for $210 in 2004. Today, if you wanted to get a copy of this baseball game, you'd have to spend $599, which is a 185% increase in value for Street Hoops. Another Metal Slug title comes in at number 11. This is Metal Slug X, which is a improvement, kind of a redone version of Metal Slug 2, where they cleaned up some of the slowdown and stuff like that. This game goes for a whopping $629 back in 2004. That is just incredible. But it's gone up way more than that. If you wanted to get a copy of Metal Slug X today, you'd have to spend $1,846, which is a 193% increase in value. That's followed up by Fatal Fury Mark of the Wolves. This is like the 8th or 9th in the Fatal Fury series, the excellent fighting games. This game back in 2004 was going for $669. But today in 2024, if you wanted to pick up a copy, you'd have to spend $1,967 to get a cart. That's a 194% increase in value for Mark of the Wolves. Metal Slug making the list one more time with Metal Slug 3. Metal Slug 3 is an excellent entry in the series. And back in 2004, a copy was going for $334, which is, pretty expensive when you think about it. But it's gone up way more than that. Today, it would cost you $999 to get a copy, which is a 199% increase in value for Metal Slug 3. Androdonus comes in at number 8. This is a classic side-scrolling shoot-'em-up, so very similar to like R-Type or something like that. It's a lot of fun with like a charge shot and, kind of your typical shooter type stuff going on here. This is a more affordable game at $99 back in 2004, but today it's gone up a little bit. If you wanted to get a copy, you'd have to spend $299, which is a 202% increase in value. Then we've got another one of my favorites, Sengoku 3, which is the third in the Sengoku series, which is another kind of time-traveling ninja side-scrolling action game. Sengoku 3 was going for $210 back in 2004. And today, if you wanted to pick up a copy of this excellent title, you'd have to spend $799, which is a 280% increase in value for Sengoku 3. Then we've got another fighting game. This is Galaxy Fight coming in at number 6. This game is a relatively rare game at a 60 on the JAMA Rarity Guide. This fighting game was going for $132 back in the day. And today, if you wanted to pick up a copy, you'd have to spend $599, which is a 354% increase in value for Galaxy Fight: Universal Warriors. World Heroes Perfect comes in at number 5. We got ourselves another fighting game here, guys. This game was going for $377 20 years ago at Game Dude, which is just a phenomenal price. But that's nothing, because today it's going for $2,500 if you want a copy of World Heroes Perfect. That's a 563% increase in value for this title. And we're only at number 5. At number 4, we've got Ninja Masters. Yet another fighting game with some classic, martial arts combat in here for you. This game is an eye-watering $922 back in the day, and that has gone up considerably. Today, a copy of Ninja Masters goes for $8,650, which is an 838% increase in value. But not to be left behind, we've got the last Metal Slug in the list here. This is Metal Slug 2. We already saw Metal Slug X, which is technically kind of a redone version of Metal Slug 2, but this is the original 2 here. This is going for $559 back in 2004. And today, if you wanted to get a copy of Metal Slug 2, you'd have to spend $6,800, which is a 916% increase in value for this excellent game. At number 2, we've got some classic horse racing, big in Japan horse racing. This is Stakes Winner. Stakes Winner was going for $461 back in 2004 if you wanted to pick up a copy at Game Dude. But today, if you wanted to do some horse racing on the Neo Geo, you'd have to spend $6,950, which is a 1,408% increase in value for Stakes Winner. Wow. And now we're coming up to our final game. What will it be? At number 1, we've got Neo Turf Masters. Definitely one of the greatest games on Neo Geo. I love this game. It's just a golf game, but it's definitely a lot of fun with a lot of replay value. Back in 2004, if you wanted a copy, you would have to spend $669. But today, if you wanted to pick up a copy, you would have to shell out $13,999, which is a 1,993% increase in value for Neo Turf Masters. Wow, what a list. Could you believe some of those prices? The top 25 most valuable SNK AES Neo Geo games. Was there anything on this list that surprised you? Or was there anything that you would have expected to see on the list that you didn't? Let me know in the comments below. I'd love to know what you think. Do any of you out there collect for SNK? I obviously have this one cartridge for Puzzle Bobble, and then I have a flash card for my OMVS, but I'd love to have more games, but it's very expensive. So instead, I collect a lot for the Neo Geo CD, which we'll be covering in a later episode. But if any of you are big MVS collectors or AES collectors, I'd love to hear about your collections and where you found them, and if you are an arcade owner or anything about your experience. I just think that this console is so unique for the home console experience that I'd love to hear more about other people who collect for it. Thanks for coming by my channel and checking out this latest episode of Pixels to Polygons. We'll be back next week with another heavy hitter, a juggernaut of the 1990s video gaming scene, the Super Nintendo Entertainment System. You're not going to want to miss it. So make sure that you're subscribed and click the bell icon so you'll be notified when that video drops next week. And while you're clicking around, you may as well smash that like button on this video as well, because it really helps out the channel and I appreciate it. Thanks for hanging out with me in the Geek Cave for another week as we checked out the SNK Neo Geo AES system. I'll be back next week with the SNES. You're not going to want to miss it. Until then, this is Technohead signing off.
We have guidance in channel.